They just massed there, shuffling. Nothing more. Just shuffling around and around. Moaning. Moaning and shuffling. Moaning and shuffling. I had honestly near lost control of my functions when they appeared. Thousands upon thousands of them, as far as the eye could see. And now, a very brief word from our sponsors. Just shy of 2 minutes. Let's do this. Raid Shadow Legends, where you too can be a legend. The #1 fantasy game still available free on PC, console and all smartphones. But what's new? Well, it's the nastiest nasty they have ever conceived of thus far. The Hydra. A superpowered clan boss that's like many bosses rolled into one. He's got multiple different heads. You took note of the name, yes? And each one has its own unique mechanic. It can thrust damage from itself onto your team. It can scare your champions, rot them from the inside, cloak itself in a poisonous miasma. And that's just the start. If you can cut off its head though, it exposes its neck and it's open season. You can deal out some insane damage before it grows back a new head. The whole battle is a tactical puzzle, always revealing a new challenge. This thing is one of the toughest fights in the game, but by Jove it's absolutely worth it, because it can get you some of the best artifacts around, so farm that horror. If that isn't enough for you, Raid is also giving away a super limited edition champion to every player in the game. Some of you may recognize him already. It's esports legend and Na'vi superstar Simple. Between now and January 28th, 2022, Simple's limited edition champ is available for free to both new and old players in Raid. Nice. All you have to do is log in for 7 days between now and January 28th and he's all yours. So definitely don't wait around. And on top of that, it's the ho-ho-ho season. So Raid's got a full advent calendar's worth of activities with special events and tournaments and even some new fusion events to help you add some of Raid's incredible festive champions to your collection. Hit the link in the description or skew my technical thingy, that thingy there, and you'll get an epic champion, Tyrell, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill and 1 XP boost and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. What are you waiting for? Get stuck in and download it today. Raid Shadow Legends. Begin your legend today. They crested the horizon, just walking at us, to the walls, to the many levels of defences we had prepared. At first, we were ordered to gun them down. As soon as they hit our range, we unloaded on them again and again and again. They didn't duck. They didn't speed up, didn't hide, didn't stop coming. No matter how many of them we destroyed, they just kept coming. We were ordered to stop firing eventually, when it became obvious we were just making ramps for them. We were in danger of gifting them a carpet of dead to simply walk over our walls if we kept it up. Because they just kept coming. We waited until they got to the very walls. Nobody knew what to expect then. Not us. But definitely not the officers either. They looked down over the walls as speculatively as we did. But nothing happened. Nothing. They got to the walls. They were pushed to the sides by the oncoming throngs. So they just pushed and shuffled around the walls. No attempt to climb them. No attempt to climb over each other. No sentience at all. But the numbers. Even if we fired all day, every day, I doubt we'd have dented it even. So many. The dead of 100 villages, hamlets and towns around us. But they did nothing but shuffle. It was the groaning. I think that is what did it. As more of the things appeared every day, the sound became almost deafening when you put your head anywhere near the side. So many throats flapping open, so many lungs exhaling their pain into the skies. It became so you could always hear them, even in your dreams, even in the city itself, the constant drone of their moaning. Of course, we were not to know. How could we? Because it started in the city, on the walls. One morning, I woke from the dream of moaning to the reality of its background buzz, of course, only to then hear it below me, besides me, around me. Men and women on the walls, they had turned. Somehow, without even getting inside, these things had turned many. Wrestling and firing and biting and screaming were all around me. Beneath me, I saw the thoroughfares of our city, usually empty of all but resource detail scurrying to and fro. But now, they were packed with the same walkers, lurching and moaning until they found living victims and quickly consumed them. We are undone. It was the moaning alone. How does one defeat such insidious power? Welcome, gentle listener. I am Voldemort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and units of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And today, we shall be discussing some of the least important, least dangerous of all combat troops, yet they strike fear into the hearts of all who witness them. For their threat is not in their weapons or their form, not even in their numbers, but in that which they carry, the unending blights of Grandfather Nurgle himself. Of course, I can only be talking about the Pox Walkers of the Forces of Chaos. Now I will note that I am putting out shorter entries with less razzle-dazzle, as I am working on a very, very large piece of work for next week. So do bear with me as I attempt to entertain you and keep the channel alive while I prepare what I very much hope is the beginning of my magnus opus. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Pox Walkers. Pox Walkers are a form of chaos-infected undead, similar to zombies, who have been cursed by one of the Chaos God Nurgle's maladies, the so-called walking pox, so that they can serve as unliving weapons for the Death Guard Traitor Legion. Some inquisitors of the Ordo Sepulchrum, the new Ordo Minoris of the Inquisition dedicated to battling the undead, claim that the walking pox is a variant of Nurgle's rot, since, unlike zombies, the victim's flesh often mutates even after physical death, growing horns, tentacles, and spikes similar to those of Nurgle's victims who become plague bearers. Shambling across the battlefield in reeking hordes, Pox Walkers engulf their enemies in a rotting tide. They are the cursed victims of Nurgle's plagues, transformed into the unliving weapons of the Death Guard. Amongst the countless diseases propagated by the Legion, none is more fearsome than Nurgle's rot. This perfect plague is both spiritual and physical in nature, inflicting a drawn-out and horrific decline upon the victim that eventually erodes their soul while leaving their body as a plague-ridden husk. Yet Nurgle's rot is but one of the diseases that churn within the innards of the Death Guard and saturate every world upon which they tread. The Destroyer Plague, that which tormented Mortarian's sons and delivered them to Nurgle during the Horus Heresy, still lurks in their rotting flesh. The Zombie Plague, the malady of unliving abomination for which Typhus the Herald is the vector primoria, has variegated into countless strains since the Great Rift yawned wide. The Weeping, the Mutterflux, the Slithering Scourge, and countless others spread before the Death Guard, and it is a cocktail of these appalling maladies that breeds the walking pox. Victims of the walking pox find their bodies rotting and shutting down until death eventually takes them. Yet this is not the end. The sufferer remains cruelly conscious and aware, unlike a zombie, trapped within their corpse as it reanimates with a rictus grin and staggers off in search of the living. Their flesh mutates even after death, sprouting bloated, pulsating tentacles and horn-like growths from their skulls, similar to those of the Nurgle's demonic plague-bearers. Simply hearing the mindless, groaning cacophony of the Pox Walkers is enough to infect the souls of all but the most faithful Imperial citizens, leading to massed outbreaks even within fortresses and cities that appear inviolate. Countless souls have been lost in such a way to this malady, everyone becoming another heretical abomination intent on murder. By the time the Death Guard move to attack a world so afflicted, they have an army of the dead waiting to aid them. Though most commonly utilized by the Victoriums of the Death Guard's First Plague Company, Pox Walkers are used as cannon fodder and terror troops by most Death Guard warbands. In particular, the Carrion Hounds Victorium utilizes vast hordes of these fell, pestilent creatures to screen the advance of their heretic Astartes. The warriors of this vile host hold a great affection for the shambling monsters, and often assemble morbid collections of infected souls, such as defeated Astra Militarum regiments or entire noble families. They display rudimentary coordination in battle, wielding debris as crude weapons, and although they are clumsy and slow, they are also inhumanly resilient. In large numbers, these slouching corpse mutants are capable of overrunning enemy lines, gnawing, bludgeoning and ripping apart in orgies of mindless violence those that may once have counted them amongst their allies. End quote. Now, Pox Walkers are hilariously good fun in the game. The figures are whimsically designed to add an almost carnival spectacle to the onward lurch of the teeming masses of Nurgle's forces. They are ungainly and twisted things that are not only a joy to paint, but a wonder to play against. For they can be ignored for most of the entire confrontation, only to take the unwary general by surprise. For there have been many situations, many battles against the hairy one, Lex, my friend who plays Death Guard, where I have utterly sneered at these units, only to come a cropper from them in short order. For they can tar pit one of your units, where they do no substantial damage, but hold up your forces. Or the one time I played them myself, where they managed to annihilate a squad of Terminators. Unlikely in the extreme, I can assure you, but it is one of the most fun things in Warhammer, in my humble opinion. Because dice and chance are so important in the games, they can throw up the most unpredictable or utterly unlikely of outcomes. It is here, when the chips are down, and you can suddenly roll exceptionally lucky, or its opposite, and a victory is snatched from the jaws of defeat, and a lowly grunt can perform a 1 in a million shot that lays low a Titan or a hero. It is this reason I will always love games like Warhammer, because truthfully, no matter how often you play the army, no matter how much experience you gain, no matter how much you try to reduce the odds and wipe out variance from your army, it will always come down to the roll of those small cubes with the numbers on the side. And when Lady Luck ensconces herself on your side, literally anything can happen. I have been Voldemort, your faithful servant. I hope you have enjoyed this brief introduction to Pox Walkers. If so, then please do consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. If you see the worth in what we are doing, then do also consider joining our Patreon, but only after Christmas. Or give the video a share if that is beyond your present scope. It would be a great boon. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.